Welcome back to the show, my fellow extraordinary Americans. In today's show, we have our guest, Michael Hinkle. Michael is a very successful and experienced Navy veteran, serial entrepreneur, CEO, keynote speaker, and podcaster. He's the president of Skill Mill, CEO of Anchor 907, and the co-host of the award-winning podcast, Diapers and Deployments. He served 31 years and retired as the Command Master Chief of Medical Forces Atlantic. In his role, he had executive oversight of medical, dental, and other healthcare services to approximately 1 million patients via 26,000 staff and an annual budget of $1.3 billion across 100 hospitals, branches, clinics, and medical faculties in the Eastern United States, Europe, and the Middle East. He has founded and co-founded 4 companies in the past 3 years, to include a defense contracting company, a real estate development company, an HR technology company, and a fishing apparel company that quickly turned into a consulting company. His latest venture is in Homer, Alaska. Him and another Navy veteran are building a workforce housing campus that will house 120 workers. The campus is on track to open before the 2023 summer tourist season. Michael grew up very poor and was the first person in his family to graduate high school and then college. He fought against the odds, served his nation, and embodies the pioneering, innovative, and entrepreneurial spirit that makes us extraordinary Americans, and I'm honored to have him on this show. Michael, are you there?
I am here, my friend. What's going
Michael,
on, man?
I'm doing good. It's really an honor to have you on this podcast. Like, I'm really glad that you took the time to do this.
I love coming on podcasts, man. It's fun. I have my own podcast. I just like the conversational podcast format. I love it.
No, yeah. So, Michael, I know that you're a serial entrepreneur, you're a Navy veteran, you're a CEO, and you're a podcaster. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started overall?
Um, Overall, I grew up in a little town called Newtown, West Virginia. I had 2 brothers and a sister. 4-room house, no indoor plumbing till 8th grade. Very modest beginnings. And my cousins came back from they they'd been overseas. They were in the Navy, and I remember being over there, and I was 16 years old, and they came back and they were telling me stories of going overseas and doing all these crazy things, and they had a little bit of money, and I was like, "Where's this recruiter guy? I'm going to need to talk to him." So I joined the Navy at 17. I turned 18 in boot camp. Um, and now I have a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids. My oldest is an Auburn grad. My youngest is going to be an Auburn grad. It just an amazing life, friend, an amazing life.
No, that's awesome. Like, I remember I talked to you once and you were telling me about how you grew up poor and then like you went from there to become really successful. Like you made your, you become financially free overall. And then you founded all these companies and everything. So can you tell the audience more about your overall strategic goal or vision, like the entire transition from going from the 99% to the 1% and how you did that?
I don't think I'm in the 1%. I tell you, it's every day is a struggle with business, and you know that, right? You're one day away from bankruptcy in business. It seems like all the time. uh, for me, it was a slow process and mindset change. I grew up, go to college, go to the military, get a paycheck, pay your bills, save some money for retirement, grow old and die. I mean, that's just kind of my mindset, right? And that's the way I thought about money for the longest time. It wasn't until about 4 years ago until I started thinking differently about how I was going to be, financial independence and financial wealth. And we call it generational wealth for your children, right? And I never thought about that. I never thought I could do that. Anyone can do it, by the way. You just have to have some sacrifices and some goals. But we started Skill Mill, me and my friend Noel, and that's really what started me down this path of thinking, man, I can do business. And the more I started talking to people, the more I realized money always held me back, right? That's when I always thought I needed money to start a business. In today's world, that is just not true. Um, my latest project, we'll go into that later, but I did not have the money for this project. I found the money because I had the plan. So if you're listening, just know that money should not be the reason that you don't start a business.
So a lot of people in the audience would say that it takes money to make money and all of that, right? What would you tell to the people that believe in that mantra? Like it takes money to make money, and
In most statements, right, there's truth and fiction. Um, if you have money, it's a hell of a lot easier to make money. Let's be honest. I can go out and put 75,000 down on a house. The bank pays for the rest. My renters pay for it. If you have money, it's easy. But if you have a good plan, a good business plan, even if you start slow with almost no money, I think a website these days is probably $30 a month, and a domain name. Some domain names are $2 a year. Some are 20. You can launch a business in today's world for a couple $100. Um, so don't let money be the reason. Some things you will need financial backing for if you have some big real estate deal. But like I said, the latest thing that I'm doing, I had, you know, serial entrepreneur, you called me, and I guess that's kind of true. I don't think of myself that way, but I keep starting businesses. And one of these days they're going to be successful. But I didn't, I have $0 invested in my latest company. And it's going to make, it's a multi-million-dollar company already in a year.
Wow. Okay, so Michael, I gotta let you know that like your idea of like success and failure will probably different from like most people's idea of success and failure. Like they're just gonna see things differently. Like it's all like a relative term, right? And so like I think most people would see you as relatively successful to them. And but like yeah, as you're saying, like it's all like a relative factor. There's always gonna be some people more successful than us, like who knows
Right.
more and all of that. But Michael, what was that one mindset shift you had in the like over the last 4 years that led you to where you are today compared to like all the other years, like when you were just like in the military and all of that, and like you had the old mindset shift? Like, what was that shift, and when did that happen?
It really happened after I got out of the military because, I had my pension, and here's an advantage I have that most Americans do not have. I do have a pension, so I have a safety net. So after I had worked my 31 years and got my pension and was able, I can pay all my bills if I never go to work again. So that part of my life is set. So now, I could focus on maybe trying to start a business and creating some wealth in other places. Mind you, I did not, I pay myself for these businesses forever. And one of them, I'm still not paying myself yet. And that's fine. It'll pay off later. And I'm okay with that. So at that point, I started thinking about building assets. And you hear about this your whole life. But the easiest way to describe it is, if you have $70,000 and you go buy a new car and you pay cash for the car, 3 years later, it's worth $30,000, right? And that's it. But if you put 70,000 down on a house, borrow the rest of the money from the bank, someone else rents your house and pays your mortgage, 3 years from now, you're going to get your $70,000 back and you can go pay cash for the car. And you have tax breaks. I mean, all those things, right? That everyone knows. I just never thought it was possible for a normal person like me. That's all.
Wow, Michael. I mean, you say that everybody knows, but most people don't know that. Right now, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people on my podcast, and we always talk, we sometimes get to the conversation about consumer debt and how people are just buying stuff with money that they don't have to impress people that they
Guilty. I've done it.
no, I know, right? I mean, it's like the 99% mindset, but like the entire part of Extraordinary America is to transform the 99% into 1%. So we have to know what the strategies and the way of thinking of the 1%ers are. And like right now in the 99%, like there's a lot of consumer debt, right? People have become financially enslaved because they are buying the car with this debt, and then they have to now go and do jobs and like in order to pay that back. But here you're thinking of a new way and all of that. Like, what would you tell somebody that wants to transition from that way of thinking of just paying directly for the car, and like then how would they get to that transition point and transform to like what you're doing right now?
I will tell you, it will not happen by tomorrow. It happens slow, right, over time, and you just have to think about money differently. And I'm still guilty, right? I still will go out and buy stuff I just do not need, right? It happens to everybody. I just for Christmas I bought myself. My wife's not going to listen to this till later. I got a drone. Do I need a drone? Hell no, I don't need a drone. And I got me that new Oculus system, right? I don't need all that stuff, but sometimes I just, you have to have it. But you have to start thinking, instead of purchasing a car, what kind of asset could you buy that would make the car payment? Does that make sense?
Exactly. Like you're thinking in terms of assets. Like most people are thinking in terms of
Cash
like
flow.
life, like cash
Right.
flow. assets. Like, but like most people are thinking in terms of liabilities. They're not utilizing debt in order to like create assets that will like pay for itself and then eventually
Yes.
make them financially free. So that's like, it's like one of the biggest mindsets that I want my audience to know, because it is pretty important in today's world.
It's hard too, right? So you're not going to live forever and you want to have things and that's okay. There has to be a balance, right? You can't, I've known people that have a couple $1,000,000 in the bank and they drive an old beat up car and they don't live, right? And then I know people that live beyond their means, which used to be me. Um, so every person is completely different in this life that's this short. You really have to do what makes you happy. If buying a $70,000 car and being in debt doesn't stress you out and you never want to create generational wealth, that don't let anyone judge you for it, right? But if you do, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're going to have to listen to some podcasts, watch some YouTube videos. Any education that you want in this world is out there and it's free. You can learn anything you want online. Fact. So if you want to make this happen, get educated. Your mind's not going to shift overnight. I used this app called Headway last year. I think the biggest difference for me in the last year was probably that app. Um, my goal was 300 books and it's short books, like 15, 20-minute overview of a book. And I met that the first part of December. So I did 300 books and, and you do it while you're walking, while you're working out. Um, you just have to constantly feed your mind. It's like a muscle, feed it the right information. And it only takes one book or one podcast or one person to change your life, but you never know when you're going to meet them, where you're going to get the book, or where you're going to hear it till it clicks.
That is so inspirational, Michael. Like, I myself like take a look at Blinkist and Audible, and like we can actually like go into that. It's like an app, and then we can read books whenever, and it just gives all the major points and all that. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, you have to always be in education and self improvement state, and always be reading and knowing more, and like listening to more podcasts and all of that,
Yes.
because that's the only way we're going to get the education necessary to set ourselves free altogether.
Yes. Yes. And, you talked earlier about success, and I'm going to start writing a book next year, but, uh, you know, I compartmentalize success, right? Y- You're either not, as a whole person, you're either not successful or you are successful. That's not the way life works. You can be successful at your marriage and not successful in your financial world, right? Or a successful father, but not a successful husband. I mean, in my mind, I compartmentalize different parts of my life as successful and not successful. Overall, I consider myself successful, right? But there's parts of my life that I am not. So you constantly have to feed your brain.
No, totally. Like, that's one of the things, like one of the reasons I brought into the podcast, because you're seeing both the worlds. Like, you're seeing the world of like the 95 or 99%, whatever you call it, and then the world of the 1 to the 5%. Like, they have different worldviews. And then there's like a transition period, which is kind of almost like a purgatory, right? Like
It
it's
is.
almost like, like you have like these two worlds that are separated, and then there's like pros and cons in each world. Like, this world, it's like ignorance is bliss. You don't know any better. But then there's like that state in the middle where you're like, shit, I mean, I need to know more knowledge. There's a whole other world I know is possible. Like, I thought it was not possible. Now it's possible. But then you're not there yet, and you're in the middle. And now you're seeing the way the 1%ers are living. And then you want that lifestyle, but you don't have it. But
Yes.
then at the same time, you're like not quite in the 99%, where like you're like right in the middle, like you're in between. I know that I've experienced that myself, and I or like, what is that experience like for you?
They say your parents get smarter every day. And my dad passed away when I was 30, and every day he gets smarter, right? And he used to tell me I thought different than normal people around, I guess. But he said, you may not ever be happy, Mike. And I said, what? It's a horrible thing to say to your son. He said, well, he said, you're either so poor it doesn't matter, or so rich it doesn't matter. He said, if you get trapped in between, it's hard to find happiness. Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Michael,
So,
that is
yeah.
so deep. I already know.
And for a while, I was so poor it didn't matter. So I was pretty happy. And I've been in the middle a long time, my friend. So I'm going to claw myself out.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I think like that's like one of the, like, the reason I bring it up is because a lot of people, like, deep down they're afraid, they have the fear of success, but more like they're afraid of like the middle path where, like the journey of 1,000 miles, like you going from one
Yes.
city to another, right? The city that you have, like you've known this city your entire life, but you have to get to that other city to expand and improve your life. But now you're in this journey across this desert, and it's sometimes feels lonely. Like the entrepreneurial journey is relatively lonely compared.
Oh my God. Yes. Every day is a battle, isn't it?
Yeah. Like what would you tell people that want to make that journey, but they're afraid of like the loneliness that comes with it, or like that metamorphosis and that uncomfortableness that comes with this entrepreneurial journey?
I would always tell people, take care of your bills and your family first, right? And if you can afford to go out and do a side hustle, don't quit your job tomorrow and be like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur today. That is not the way life works. Like I said, I didn't pay myself for a long time, and I don't pay myself mostly now, right? Sometimes I'll take some money, but um, it it's hard, but it's worth it. That right? You know you have, if you've always wanted to do something. Remember, I said life is short. You just need to go do it, right? The Nike, just do it. True words have
But
never
that's
been
so
spoken.
cliche. Yeah.
It's true though, right? I mean, I have to get out of my own way a lot because it's easy to sit around and say you're going to do stuff and not do it. I have getting things done. I'm sure you've heard of that book. I have folders right here beside of me, and there's a folder, things one day folder, right? And that friggin' book I've been talking about has been in my one day folder for years. Well, that folder's coming out January 1st, right? So it's time to quit talking about it. And it's going to be as simple as picking up a pen or my computer and starting. Right? Entrepreneurship's no different. I knew this much about business. Um, and you talk about being broke as shit, man. Um, they tell you about this when you first enter the military. Of course, I didn't listen. I went and bought a Mustang, right? Because every young 19-year-old needs a Mustang with, fast car with super insurance rates this high. And an E wanted that financing place right outside of base and paid like, I don't know, 29% interest. And, transmission went out and had to get a credit card right away to fix the transmission. Had to get tires, so I got a credit card at Sears, and I got in credit card trouble that quick, right? Um, and if you're out there and you're listening and you're in that kind of trouble, slowly dig yourself out. That's all you can do, right? Day by day. And then you see the light and you just have to chip away at it and then do a side hustle, man. Do Shift, do Uber. There's so many ways to make $20 an hour is easy to make. If you have a car that runs, you can make $20 an hour, right? And how much Netflix are you watching a week? Multiply those hours by 20 and tell me you can't start a business or you can't get money.
But Netflix feels so good, Michael. Doing an Uber doesn't. It's getting.
I know. Well, there's choice. That's a choice though, right?
Yeah,
Hey,
I had this exact same conversation, I think, with another person that I was interviewing, and then they told pretty much similar lines. Like, if you're gonna do Netflix, like you're not gonna be, less likely to be successful. Yeah.
yeah, well, I disagree with that statement though. Here's why. Moderation, right? So I watch shows with my wife every night. Uh, we have our like a 2 hour window. That's my time, right? Um, Me and her sit down, we watch TV for 2 hours. So now if you're sitting down and you're binging 60 hours a week, my friend, you got to reprioritize your life.
When you said that, it was so funny.
It's true. Uh, hey, we've all done it, right?
Yeah.
How many Saturdays have I spent laying in my pool watching football, drinking beer, right? A lot of them. Uh, it happens. You got to have fun, but you got to make choices. If you make a choice that you never want to start a business, you never want to be rich, and you're going to be happy with your life, and that's your choice, then you should be happy with that choice. If that's not the life you live the life you're willing to build, right? So whatever choices you're going to make, be happy with them and live that life. But if you're not happy where you're at, you got to make changes.
No, I mean, I totally agree. Like that is a must. I'm glad that you're saying that because yeah, it needs to be said. But
Yeah.
Michael, what is the biggest lesson you learned in your entrepreneurial journey? One,
Mm,
the number one top lesson that you learned, especially during the last 4 years?
mm, I would just say time management. You know, I spent so much time and clear goals. I can't say clear goals enough. You just, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. You've heard all these things, right? And everyone's heard them. And then you sit around all day, and at the end of the day, you're like, "What the hell did I get accomplished?" And you look up, and there's nothing. I have a whiteboard in front of me. There's nothing on the whiteboard that you said you were going to get done. Then you accomplished exactly what you set out to do that day. Nothing, right? So just have a clear goal, have time, and be where you are. And I think I said this to you when we were in Tennessee, right? My my motto has always been to be where I am, but I wasn't good at it probably until my 40s, right? Um, if I'm at home watching TV with my wife, I want to be in that seat with her watching television, thinking about work. If I'm at work, I want to be at work, not thinking about home. I want to be where I am with my mind focused 100% on where I'm at. That's hard to do. Took me a long time. But the only way to do that is to be productive when you are at work, or when you do have a goal to get that shit done. So when it's 5 o'clock or whenever you want to get off work, that your mind is off work too, not just your body. So have a clear vision, get your shit done, and then be where you are.
It's like time management is completely, it's true, right? Like you have to manage your time in a certain way, but it's so difficult to do it, especially when you're transitioning from, like doing like a career job and like a lot of people have difficulty with managing their time
I
because
do.
it's all about discipline, right? And like
Yes.
that's like the number one key to success, right? It's like you have to be disciplined and you have to be structured. You got to get things done in a certain period of time. And like most people, like they don't have that uh level of discipline to do that, you know?
I don't some days, right? I think everyone's guilty. For most days, I do now. I just, I, I want to move, and in order to move forward, you have to have a goal, and you have to have a vision, and you have to manage your time effectively, and clear your mind.
So Michael, what was the greatest challenge you had during while like you were fine like working on your businesses, and how did you overcome it?
My greatest challenge was me. Uh, I call it laziness or just ineffectiveness, or uh, just not doing the work that it took really to get things done. Setting okay goals, not smart goals, and kind of just chipping away at the days instead of grinding at the days. Um, if you want to make time, or you want to make money, or whatever it is, then you have a clear vision of when you want that. It's probably going to happen. If you don't, I just spent a couple of years. That apparel company is a great example. I started it. I did Shopify. I kind of half-assed it. Didn't really make any money, but I learned a lot. Right. And I put that behind me and moved on. I'm I will say I'm pretty good at failing and being like, "Oh, well, shit, that didn't work." Right? Um, and you gotta be good at failing, honestly, to be in business. I think you know that.
No, I
Yeah,
love I love that you mentioned that because like a lot of people are afraid of failure, but like the way you see it and other entrepreneurs see it is that it's just a stepping stone to success. It's data collection. You
it
have to
is.
fail, you got to learn, and then you just
Yep,
got to keep failing and failing until you start succeeding. But most people
yep.
they hit that roadblock and then they fail and they're like, "Oh, I'm done. Oh,
Hey,
my environment is
I know.
crap.
Guess
Oh,
guess who's
politics."
not good at guess who's not good at selling T-shirts? And you know why though? This is cliche too. Everyone tells you this, but I wasn't really into it. It wasn't really a passion of mine, right? It was more like a way to make money. If you're searching for money, don't go into business. Just friggin' collect your paycheck and don't even start, right? You'll be miserable. Fact. But if you find something you think, man, this is going to be fun, right? Well, now you have a business.
I mean, that's like the one common theme that I find with everybody I interview is you have to be
Yeah.
passionate about what you're doing, and like you got to make your passion, or like it starts off as a side hustle, but then you monetize it and then you make it grow big. But it's really difficult for people for some reason. Like it's almost like our society has like trained us to be robotic to like basically serve other people's dreams, when instead it should have been geared around how to like fulfill our own dreams and monetize that so that we can live the best life possible.
Well, someone explained entrepreneurship to me pretty simple. they said, listen, the reason you have to have passion is someone can either pay you 40 or $50 an hour to work for 40 hours a week, or you can start a business and work for yourself for about 120 hours a week and get paid about 20 bucks an hour, or maybe 10. Uh, but if you love it, I'm like, shit, that's true. That's true. I work 100 hours a week, so I don't have to work 40 for somebody else. Isn't that some bullshit?
I
But
mean,
that's
but like, like right now, like one of the reasons I started this podcast is because a lot of people are working for like 60 to 80 hours a week, like doing 2 to 3 jobs. They don't even
yeah,
love their jobs. They're just trying
yeah,
to make ends meet. So what you're saying is like, at least you're passionate about it. Like a lot of people, they're doing all those hours, but they're not even passionate. It's almost like a zombie apocalypse or something of just like,
yeah. I got to be honest though, I'm not working that much now. I I told you about balance, and everyone says it's not possible. It is possible. Um, I probably put in about 30 to 40 hours a week. Um, Try not to work on weekends at all, because that's my family time. So I could get rich a hell of a lot faster if I wanted to. Not that important, because I still have a child at home. So you gotta have some balance.
no, totally. Like I think like you have a family and you're also doing
Yeah,
business. Like a lot of people say, like a lot of people would be afraid to even start a business and like start ventures because they have to pay for their family and their kids,
it's
and
hard.
there's a lot of responsibility. So what you're doing is actually a huge risk. I mean, like you have to take like big risks in order to do that because you have like a family, and then it's like, like what if like you financially fail and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, that's always in the back of your mind, but there's certain I set boundaries too. And you should set boundaries if you start a business. My I'll call it a tripwire. I was never going to put my house up as collateral for a business loan, and I was never going to do anything to affect my retirement money because that part of my life is completely separate from my business life. If a business goes bankrupt, I will not. When you go to putting your house up for collateral and getting this big ass loan on a project you're not sure about and interfering with your family, things get different for me. Some people will do that. Some people are really risk is no big deal to them. I'm kind of risk averse ish, but but not completely. Does that make sense? I mean, or there's boundaries I won't cross.
I mean, I mean, I don't know myself because I don't have a family, but like for a lot of people, like if they had families, like their wife would tell them not to do this business, don't risk it. What if you fail? Like, there's like a
Yeah.
lot of circumstantial pressure that most family men would have, but you're somehow you have somehow like averted those circumstantial pressures in a way, or maybe like your family was supportive of it, you know?
Well, it's a conversation that you have with your family. If I was very honest with my wife and told her what I would and would not risk. I mean, if you're married, then that's your partner. Then you got to be on board with her or him like 100%, or it's not going to happen. And of course, you're afraid to tell people you're starting a business. So many friends will tell you it's not going to work, and you don't know if it's jealousy or you don't know if it's just them being. They want you to be down in the pit with them working. I don't know what it is.
The crab bucket mentality, like they
Yeah,
like it's like everybody's down together. Yeah.
I have lucky for me again when it comes to friendship. That part of my life is very successful. I have a group of friends that are very close to me that not business owners but mostly military friends, and I still have the same best friend since kindergarten. So I have a really good, strong friend group that didn't do that to me, but I had some friends who did, of course. But you know what? They don't pay my bills, so they have no say in what I do.
Right on.
Yeah, if they start making my house note, maybe they give me some advice.
No, see, like I want my audience to know that, like, if your friends are not helping you financially or whatever, like, why are you letting them affect your life? Like you need to like the only people that you should like give a chance is like people that love you unconditionally. Most
Yes.
people let the opinions of others who really don't care if they live or die affect their lives, and it's crazy. Like, why would
Yeah.
you do that? Like, don't care about what they think because like they're not going to affect your life. They're not going to pay your bills. You know?
No. And they probably won't even show up to your funeral. So
Y-
look
yeah.
look around and figure out if you passed away tomorrow, who would come to your house the next day and make sure your wife and kids were okay. Those people matter. Everyone else doesn't matter.
Right on. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on a different note, Michael, you know, America is the land of the free and the place where dreams are made. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I completely agree. And it's all about motivation and how hard you want to work. I mean, I had nothing, right? It is the land of opportunity. Look how many people come here and make, you know, we talk about money and wealth and all that, but not just take all that stuff away for a minute. Mm. Look how many people come here and make a great life for themselves and their kids and live in a nice, comfortable home, right? They don't starve. Those things may sound simple to me and you, but I've been around the world and having a house with air conditioning and a refrigerator full of food, there's people all over the world that would kill for that. So be thankful for what you got. And this, you can have it here.
Michael, I totally get it. Like, I myself came here as an immigrant, right? And I became a naturalized citizen and I saw the contrast. But a lot of people are over, like that were natives over here. Like they already grew up in that environment of abundance or like relative abundance where like, you know, to consumer debt, you get all this stuff. And they don't really, they don't appreciate as you're
Yeah.
saying, you know?
It's horrible. I hate I hate the American welfare system. I hate I hate the way that we give people things. Now, no one should starve to death. Everyone should have affordable health care, all those normal things. But I mean, everyone doesn't need a new car, right? I mean, you got to work for a living if you can. Yeah. I hate the way that some people are spoiled and parents, right? It's their fault too. If your kid doesn't know the value of work, guess what? It ain't your kid's fault. It ain't the teacher's fault. It's not because they're a millennial. It's not because of what year they were born. It's because of what happened at your house. That's our responsibility. Teach our kids that what we have is not normal.
Yeah, well, like, you know, like in today's society, like we give the well, like they're giving the kids like participation trophies and all of that. Like, what's your I would be
No,
go.
you earn a trophy. You know what? If everyone gets one, what value does it have in your life? And here's where people fail. You know, if you're told your whole life you can be an astronaut, right? And you're great and you can do anything you want, and your parents know that you have asthma and you can barely walk 10 feet, who are you doing a disservice to? Right? Kid's not going to be an astronaut. Be honest with people. You know, I forget what book it was. It Wooden. He said you can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a ladder. I mean, you can't be anything you want, but you can be successful. Fact, right? So I don't believe in participation trophies. I don't believe in telling kids they can do anything they want, within reason, of course. Um, yeah, it's bullshit, is what it is.
No, I mean, I would. What you're saying is making sense, but like a lot of people, like you know, like the crab, as we were talking about the crab bucket mentality. Like, let's say you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a businessman, they'll tell you the exact same thing. So, like that we have to know when to differentiate one from the other, right? Like, what would that look like for you?
I think you're asking about emotional intelligence. So, you you do have that little voice inside of you. I think everyone does, and they know when someone's being just an asshole or someone's giving you some pretty good advice. And I think you're just afraid to listen to it, right? If someone's telling you it's not going to work, let's say that someone's telling you this t-shirt thing is not going to work because they've done it 3 times, and here's a list of reasons, and here's my financial data. You probably want to sit down with this guy and be like, hey, here's where you made a mistake. Or, I'm glad you told me that because I won't make all those mistakes. Or someone's just like, oh, that shit's never going to work. Why? "Nah, I don't know. You're like, okay, I'm probably not listening to this one, you know. Um, but I don't know. Just it's as you get older, it's just experience of listening to the right people. And you know who they are. There's no magic formula. You can't read that in a book, but if
But
you're an
Michael,
adult, yeah,
in my life, I've had a lot of people that were pretend friends. Like
yeah.
they posed as a good friend, but literally they're like a hidden enemy sort of thing. Like they're like deeply jealous and they want to bring you down. So that like it's difficult for people to differentiate between one or the other. But yeah, I see what you're saying though.
It's easier for other people to see too. If I hung around you for a week and saw your friends, I would automatically know who's there for the right reason, I think, right? It may be easier for even me to spot. So if you have a really good friend telling you too that, hey, so and so is a hanger, they're just here in case you get rich. You're like, oh, kind of cut bait with that one, right? I don't know. It's always been easy for me to spot people that are genuine.
No, I mean, yeah, it does take a level of like emotional intelligence, but it also takes like experience as well, I suppose, like life, and so Michael, um, a lot of Americans like they want to realize the American dream, but a lot of people they're not able to. Like, what do you think is the biggest hurdle that Americans face when it comes to realizing the American dream, and how would they overcome it?
Education is the biggest hurdle. They don't teach you about any of this in school. Um, Everyone's like, get an IRA. Yeah. Well, that's not going to solve your problem. They don't teach you about finances in school because of the way the banking system is. They don't want everyone, if everyone knew about it, well, one percenters, what would they do? Everyone can't be a one percenter. Um, Education is your friend. You, they can take away your house, they can take away a lot of things, but they can't take away your education. Once you know something, you know it. So educate yourself at a young age.
That is that is deeply motivational. Yes. No, I agree with you. Like education is key. Like education and
Yeah.
self improvement. Like they could take away everything, but they cannot take away the knowledge that you have attained.
Yeah. They say the first million is the hardest. That's the one I'm still working on. So then if I get good at it, I can lose it and I get another one, right?
No, yeah. So let's say like right now, like a lot of Americans are facing in like over the period of 2022, they faced a lot of
Oh,
inflation and combined with like the consumer debt, like it's making them poorer and poorer. Like from
yeah.
your perspective, how should most Americans go about the current situation in the nation?
There's only one thing you can do, right? Mm, It's about cash flow. You either need more money or you need to cut back your expenses. Those are your two options, um, because inflation is not going away right now. A loaf of bread, you know how much a loaf of bread costs. If it was $1, it's probably two now. I mean, and if you have the same amount of income and your expenses are going up, you probably can't have steak twice a week, right? You're probably going to have to eat hamburger or bologna. I mean, that's a fact. Unless you go out and find a way to get more money. There's just no way. There's no magic.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
that's there.
houses. My daughter just built her house. Interest rates. Oh my god, interest rates on the houses for we grew up with when I was younger. It was nothing to pay 8 or 10%, but that hadn't been that way in years. But it was down to 2.9% at one time. I think I don't know. Great, but now it's up to 7. And think how much that increases a house payment. That's $400 or $500 extra a month for a modest, you know, $250,000 home or $300,000 home. Um, that's an extra 500-600 bucks a month. So
Yeah. I mean, in that case, like I was talking with another person on the show, and then they mentioned that you utilize your house as a rental property, and then you get people to rent like the places, and then like the house pays for itself, and over time
yes,
the house appreciates. So it's all about like the right strategies. And then I also mentioned in that show, like, okay, you have to like get like go into like precious metals because in order to protect your purchasing power, gold and silver historically have been able to protect your purchasing power in the long term. I mean, now there's cryptocurrency, so the whole ball game has changed. So we don't know how it's going
yeah.
to be in the future. But historically, gold and silver have already always catch up with inflation eventually.
Well, you just mentioned all that stuff, and that's one of the problems, right? If you're a young investor or even a new investor, no matter what your age is, because I was a new investor, people will tell you to invest in gold, invest in silver, go buy real estate, buy Bitcoin. People will say, never buy Bitcoin. Whatever you do, don't buy any gold and silver. Stock market shit. You can find any advice you're willing to listen to on anything. So you have to do your own research and be comfortable with your own investments. Real estate. Now, I'm going to tell you, my wife, when it comes to rental properties, she don't want no rental properties. To her, all she thinks about is there was a horse living in a a garage in St. Mary's. This person rented out their house, and they moved the horse into the house. She goes, "Hey, you have to deal with tenants like that, right?" Um,
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
and
whoa, what? Whoa, what?
yeah,
Somebody?
They
Somebody
moved
got
a
a
horse into the garage. Yeah, you can imagine how the garage looked and smelled. But you know, that's her vision of that, right? She was like, I had no rental property. Um, so very uncomfortable with rental properties, right? Bitcoin. I have Bitcoin. I'm comfortable with Bitcoin and it friggin' goes up and down. And the reason I'm comfortable with it because the money that I have in it, I don't have much in it, is money that it's like going to Vegas. It's there. And if it's all gone tomorrow, I can still eat. That's why I'm comfortable with it. If I was counting on Bitcoin, I'd be screwed, right? I'd be a wreck. I wouldn't be able to sleep because it fluctuates so much. So you get a ton of advice from a ton of different people on what to buy, and every person that comes on your podcast has a different view. You have to figure out what you want to invest in, and then you have to invest in it. I mean, that's just it's that easy.
No, I
Educate.
totally. I mean, like education, like doing your own research. Yeah, like it
Right.
has to be like you have to do your own diligent research, and like figure it out.
And you may be completely wrong. All right. You may invest it and be like, damn, I messed that up. Right.
Yeah, but what is certain though is that yeah, there has been inflation, and that there has been
Yes.
like people are like they have to figure out a way to adapt. You know, otherwise they're not going to be able to like pay their bills in a period of time. Because you know, I was doing research on monetary systems, and every fiat currency has so far gone to zero historic. You know, like the US dollar is right now fiat currency. So how long before like the monetary system changes?
I don't know. Um, we will be in a digital currency world, in my kid's lifetime, definitely.
Yeah. But like not many people know how that looks like. It's like an unknown future, and it's a almost like a wild west situation. Like when it comes
It
to like
looks like it looks like you're holding up your arm and then, taking one of those Walmart scanners and you're like, you're losing points out of your bank account. Yeah. Hey,
yeah,
it sounds funny, but you never know. And you will not be exchanging currency, but in my kid's lifetime, I think that'll go by the wayside and it'll be digital. That's my personal opinion.
no, I think the future is digital as well, but I don't know if it's going to be Bitcoin or another state sanctioned cryptocurrency. But at some point, that will be
No,
the future.
it can't be an unregulated currency. Then how would they control us?
See, now that's the thing, right? That's the one of the biggest fears I would have is like, you know, like they can utilize a cryptocurrency to basically see what we're doing and how we're using our transactions and all that. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really exciting but scary thought at the same time, you know?
it is. I, you know what though? Change is the only constant. So I'm ready. Bring it on. And let's see Bitcoin go up a little bit before they flatten it out. I need some more money.
Yeah. So, Michael, can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about your podcast, like the diapers and deployments, and a little bit more about the premise of how it got started?
You know, with Skill Mill, my veteran hiring company, HR tech slash HR technology company, we were really looking for a way to reach veteran community. And everyone's like, start a podcast, do a TED talk. And I'm going to do a TED talk next year at some point, I think too. We'll see. But I was like, man, podcast that, and Noel said, you and Serena should start a podcast. Serena was, so in the Navy, you have what's called an ombudsman. And for the audience that doesn't know about that, so when the ship would go out to sea, and at that point it was all males on submarines. So when we would all go out to sea, one of the spouses, one of the wives, would volunteer, and it's called an ombudsman, and she would basically be the liaison between the ship and the wives. So if they needed something, they knew they could reach out to her, and maybe she could help them, put them in the right direction. She wasn't going to babysit their kids, but she probably knew a phone number for them to babysit, or she could get them help if they needed help. Right? She knew all the right phone numbers. She knew all the right contacts. She's an amazing person. Um, well, my ombudsman was Serena, and we've been friends ever since. So we decided we were going to start this podcast together. And we said diapers and deployments because she said, you were always deployed and I was home changing diapers, which was so our view of the military is completely different. I was the one downrange and doing all the things, right? But Serena, her husband was also active duty member. She was the one that was taking care of the kids and doing all the wife stuff at home. And so she had to deal with a completely different part of the military than we did. all the medical and all the paperwork. And, ask most military guys if their wives are at home and ask them where the kid's social security card is. There's like, where does the kid go to the doctor? I don't know. That was me. My wife handled all that stuff. So, and we bring guests on that podcast that help our servicemen and women in some way, right? They have a program or they support them. We bring them on the podcast and we just talk to them about life and how they're helping the veteran community.
That is amazing, Michael. Like I think we need more of that, like especially for like our military people, because yeah, like they go through a lot, and like they do need like stuff like this, like which helps them out and all of that. So
Yeah,
what you're doing is amazing.
we learn stuff. Honestly, every podcast we learn things that we didn't know. There's so many people out there that help, so many programs. If you want to start a business, we talk about business. If you want to find some emotional support, if you want to go fishing, for therapy, whatever you want to do, somebody out there is doing it and there's a support for it. It's out there. I'm just telling you.
No, that's awesome. Like yeah.
Yeah.
So Michael, I know that like is there like a project that you're doing upcoming? Like I know you talked to me briefly about it, like in the year 2020 that you're gonna do like a project, and like is would you like to give the audience a glimpse of that?
So me and my veteran partner, Michael, we served together in Pensacola years ago, and then we'd gotten back together because my wife and him were working together for the Small Business Administration remotely during COVID. We started talking, and he lived in Alaska, and we started a company so we could help veterans. That was the premise, right? We want to serve again, so let's start a company. Maybe we can do some defense contracting and get a get some kind of project going up there. Well, fast forward, it's been almost 2 years, but our only contract we got was we actually had a couple of people on. We had a janitorial contract for uh, in Homer, so we had some employees that cleaned bathrooms, and that kind of got us a little bit of money right in the door. And we were going to get a building. We through the federal surplus supply system. Long story, but we were going to use this building to house some veterans because Homer's an amazing place, beautiful. And in the summertime, a lot of tourism. We're like, wouldn't it be cool to bring veterans down in the summer and let them experience Homer? That'd be awesome. Well, fast forward, we got access to 9 buildings. We we had this big, huge business plan. We were going to turn it into workforce housing because we realized in Homer that there's a severe shortage of workforce housing. And this is across the United States, by the way. So Homer's the first place we're doing this, but I'm not stopping there. So, because the average person can't afford to live, right? The average worker, the person that's busting your tables, the person that's waiting on you, those people, you need those people, right? And they can't afford to live. The prices are so ridiculous. And everyone bought all the good property and they turned them into Airbnbs for tourists. Well, with a lot of tourists and no people to work, what the hell are you going to do? Mm. So we utilize the federal surplus supply system. We got these buildings, we got the land, we got a business plan. And by June, our goal was May, but probably June 1st, we'll have 120 beds, 60 private rooms, some bunkhouses. We'll have a place that sleeps 120 workforce. It's called Workforce Housing Campus. So we're going to solve the crisis, the housing crisis for the workforce.
That is awesome, Michael. Like you're like that is like a really amazing and noble thing that you guys are doing. Like I really hope that it becomes successful, because yes, there's a crisis when it comes to affordable housing in this nation
There is.
altogether.
Well, and
And
we're trying to keep the prices low, right? That's the thing. We could take these and turn them into Airbnbs and make money. And, that's not why we did it. So, if you do things for the right reason, eh, the money will come eventually. But we're excited that we place for them to live in a nice place, right? Not just you don't have 18 people sleeping in one house
no, yeah.
just trying to make it, right? Rent's expensive. I don't know how much it is where you live. Where I live here, and it's way more expensive than Homer. I think it's probably $2,000 a month for a small place, some with no indoor plumbing. But down here, a single person trying to rent a 2-bedroom apartment is probably $1,400 a month. And if you're making 15 or $20 an hour, it's hard to come up with $1,400 a month just for rent.
I mean, the rent has been increasing overall, like everywhere, you know? I mean, I think part of it is inflation, but but it's overall just been increasing, but the wages have not been increasing in proportion. And that's the big
Yeah.
problem altogether.
Yeah. Well, we're our goal is to keep it very reasonable. Right now, I think we have them priced at under $800 a room for, for long-term rentals and various, for summer rentals only, a little higher, but we're excited. So just June 1st, man, I'm hoping it's full.
Awesome, Michael. I definitely recommend my audience to check that out, you know, because
Yeah.
it's brilliant what you're doing. So, Michael, where can our audience go to connect with you and get to know more about what you're doing?
Of course, LinkedIn, Michael Hinkle. So Michaelhinkle. They could email me, I guess, Michael.Hinkle at skillmill, skillmil.com, or they can email me at Michael at anchor907.com. Um, that's about it. Facebook page, you won't find much. And, you could go to the Skillmill website. You could like Skillmill on Facebook and LinkedIn because we put out a lot of stuff. I did a blog for a long time. Then I quit about 6 months ago, but I'm going to start blogging again in January. So it's a pretty cool blog, I think. And if the writing sucks, you can blame me because I do it all.
No, no, I mean, no one's gonna blame you for anything, like, because it's more about like the mission and like helping others, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
but anyways, Michael, I'm really honored. I'm really honored to have you as a guest on this podcast. You're really amazing. Like you're truly patriotic, and you have the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit that makes America extraordinary in the first place. I definitely hope that you come back at a later time on this show in the future.
I'd love to. And once we get up and running, I'd love to come back and tell you how successful it was, or if I'm eating ramen noodles again.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to conclude this show by telling my fellow extraordinary Americans that, hey, look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us, and it's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now. Hey there, everyone. Thank you for watching Extraordinary America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets you free. Also, remember that your purchasing power is being diluted through inflation, and then the practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power by investing in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Also, never forget that you are an extraordinary American. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.